Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, today we are tackling a seriously massive topic. We're demystifying financial independence. If you have ever felt totally trapped in that exhausting paycheck-to-paycheck rat race, or constantly stressed about bills, or maybe you're just dreaming of a life where you don't actually have to trade your time for money, well, you are exactly in the right place. We're going to build a crystal clear, mathematically proven roadmap to take you from literally zero savings all the way to total financial freedom. And we're going to do it using a philosophy we like to call financial smart. So let's just dive right into this, shall we?
Here's the roadmap we're going to follow. 1. The cost of freedom. 2. The rule of 25. 3. Smart economy hacks. 4. Multiple income streams. And finally, 5. The true function of money.
All right, starting with Section 1, the cost of freedom, defining your target.
You see, financial freedom isn't just some vague universal number. It actually requires a highly precise target. And what's incredibly inspiring here is that this specific roadmap comes from someone who genuinely started at the absolute bottom. The creator of these strategies, he was a high school dropout at 16. His teachers literally told him he had no future, and he started his career as an apprentice carpenter putting together wooden bins for just $2 an hour. He said he felt completely trapped in this vicious cycle, working right alongside folks who just looked like their souls had been completely crushed. He wanted to be free, you know, he wanted to work for himself, and by applying the exact roadmap we're breaking down today, he hit millionaire status and total financial freedom in his 20s. It perfectly proves that with the right plan, absolutely anyone can pull this off.
So let's actually define that freedom. The very first thing you've got to do is write down your personal baseline for a comfortable or even luxurious dream life. We're going to map out a pretty lavish but entirely realistic annual budget for a young person living in a major city. Let's say you want a sweet apartment in Miami or London. Okay, that's roughly $30,000 a year in rent. How about a dream car? A Porsche 911 will run you about 24 grand a year once you factor in payments, insurance, and maintenance. Want to take 3 amazing vacations a year? Let's pencil in $5,000 for that. Then add in $3,000 for utilities, $5,000 for a good mix of cooking and eating out, $2,500 for health insurance, and about $4,000 for leisure. You know, gym memberships, nights out, that sort of thing.
When you add all of those lavish categories together, you get a grand total of $75,325 per year. Now, obviously, you should adjust this number to fit your own personal goals, but for the sake of this explainer, we are going to cement this figure as our ultimate target. This right here is exactly what it costs to live your dream life every single year.
Moving on to Section 2, the rule of 25, your golden goose.
Okay, so we have our annual cost, but how on earth do we actually pay for it without working? Enter the rule of 25. This is just a brilliant little mathematical formula used to discover the total investment portfolio you need to build so that you can withdraw your annual living costs forever without actually touching your original money. It's best to think of this investment portfolio as your golden goose. As long as you only take the eggs the goose lays, which is the interest and the market growth, and you don't kill the goose by eating your principal investment, it's going to provide for you indefinitely. Just for context, historically, an S&P 500 index fund has returned an average of 12 to 14% annually over the last decade, and long-term averages easily support a 4% safe withdrawal rate.
So let's do the math. We take our dream life cost of $75,325 and we simply multiply it by 25. The result? $1,883,125. That is the exact size of the golden goose you need. Once you have that specific amount invested in the market, the passive income generated is enough to pay for your apartment, your Porsche, and your vacations forever. Now I know that number sounds incredibly intimidating, but honestly, that's exactly why we need to move to the next step.
Section 3. Smart economy hacks. Keeping your money.
To hit that big, scary target number, we need to pivot right now to some highly actionable, everyday finances smart hacks. Let's start with a really simple one, the brand hack. We are so socially conditioned to buy premium brands, right? But studies show you can save up to 87% by just choosing generic versions of the exact same quality. Look at this. A name brand box of Cocoa Pops costs $4.25 for 290 grams. But the generic Choco Rice, that only costs $1.66 and you get 500 grams. That saves you $2.56 a day. Now you might be sitting there thinking, okay, saving $2 on cereal isn't going to make me a millionaire. But listen to this. Over 5 years, that single Finanza Smart Swap saves you over $4,600. Just imagine applying that exact same logic to literally everything you buy.
And let me tell you, the savings scale up beautifully. Let's break down a few more of these lifestyle hacks. First up, the car.
Do not take out some enormous loan for a brand new car just to look wealthy. The average new car payment is now sitting at over $700 a month. Buy a quality used car that has already gone through its worst depreciation phase. Second, the house hack. Instead of renting a standard run-of-the-mill apartment, look into a duplex where you rent out half to cover your own mortgage. Or check out Airbnb arbitrage. The source material shares this absolutely wild anecdote about a guy in London who was renting a flat for £4,000 a month. He listed it on Airbnb, stayed with his girlfriend whenever it got booked, and completely covered his entire month's rent in just 10 days. Third, the tax hack. Legally keep your money by taking full advantage of tax-advantaged accounts, like a Roth IRA in the US or an ISA in the UK. And always deduct home office expenses if you run a side hustle. And finally, the negotiation hack. Never just accept the sticker price. If you're buying a car, for example, pretend you're selling it to CarMax first so you get a firm baseline value, and then negotiate fiercely at the end of the month when salespeople are desperately trying to hit their quotas.
All right, Section 4, multiple income streams, building the stool.
Now that you're saving thousands of dollars using those Finanza smart hacks, we really need to proactively earn and protect your money. But before you go out and build multiple incomes, you have to master credit. We need to destroy this myth right here, right now, that credit cards are inherently evil. They're not. The financially smart use credit cards as a tool. By getting a card, keeping your utilization super low, and paying the balance in full every single month, you build a stellar credit score. And why does that even matter? Because when you finally go to buy a house, that high score unlocks massive savings on your mortgage interest rate, keeping literally thousands of your hard-earned dollars in your own pocket instead of just handing them over to the bank.
Okay, now let's talk about your actual income. I want you to think of your income as a stool. If you're relying entirely on a single 9-to-5 job, you're basically sitting on a one-legged stool. So what happens when that one-legged stool breaks? If you get laid off, you have absolutely zero support and you hit the floor, hard. The source notes that job security is really a thing of the past, and most people are going to have around 12 different jobs in their lifetime. You absolutely must build multiple legs for your stool. We're talking side hustles, investments, freelance work.
And I know exactly what you're thinking right now. But I literally don't have time to start a side hustle. Well, the math completely destroys that excuse. There are 168 hours in a standard week, right? Let's subtract 40 hours for your day job. Then we'll subtract 56 hours so you get a full 8 hours of sleep every single night. Subtract another 22 hours for commuting and eating your meals. Guess what? You still have 50 completely free hours left over every single week. 50 hours! If you say you don't have time, it just means you don't want financial freedom badly enough. Use those 50 hours to offer freelance services, start an e-commerce store, or honestly even just wash cars. If you provide value, you will get paid.
Which brings us to Section 5, the true function of money, expansion.
This is it, the final act. This is the absolutely crucial mindset shift that separates the genuinely wealthy from everyone else. Let's directly contrast these two mindsets for a second. The poor and middle class fundamentally believe that money's primary purpose is just to pay bills and fund a lifestyle, often relying heavily on credit to buy bigger houses and better cars. But the rich? They know that the true function of money is expansion. Money is simply a tool used to make more money. You've got to avoid lifestyle inflation at all costs. When you start making extra cash from those side hustles, do not go out and buy designer clothes. No! You have to take that money and put it to work for you while you sleep.
So where exactly do the rich put their money to expand it? Well, here are the primary wealth vehicles. First up, S&P 500 index funds. This is incredibly consistent over the long haul. And today, apps like Trading 212 allow you to buy fractional shares, which means literally anyone can start investing in the 500 largest US companies, even if you just have a few spare dollars. Second is crypto, like Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now this is strictly high risk, high reward. The source strongly recommends allocating a maximum of 5% of your portfolio here, being fully prepared to lose it, but positioning yourself for massive potential upside. And finally, real estate. It obviously requires more capital up front, but through rental portfolios and house hacking, it remains the absolute ultimate long-term wealth builder.
So there you have it. By combining your carefully defined target, the rule of 25, Finanza's smart everyday hacks, multiple income streams, and adopting a true mindset of expansion, you have a complete, actionable roadmap to finally escape the rat race. The math is proven, the time is there if you actually make it, and the tools have literally never been more accessible than they are today. So I'm going to leave you with this final vital question as we wrap up this explainer. Has your golden goose started laying eggs yet? And if not, what are you waiting for? Start calculating your path to freedom today.